Hi guys! Today let's talk about 6 things which we, motorcycle riders, should never do when we ride our bike. First is being too jerky on controls. Being jerky on controls like throttle, clutch, front or rear brake is one of the most common reasons why riders end up in trouble. For example, when people see this clip, they often ask me how I managed to go through such a pool of water without dropping the bike. The answer is very simple. I'm just being smooth on controls. Our bike accelerates, brakes and turns mainly thanks to the traction between the tires and the pavement. And our tires can provide plenty of that traction on one condition. We must load our tires gradually, in a smooth manner. If we abruptly open throttle, or chop it, or grab brakes suddenly, we are not allowing enough time for the smooth weight transfer to happen. If we are braking, we have to let the fork to compress and the tire to load gradually, which then will give us a lot of traction for fast and effective braking. If we just slam on brakes suddenly, we will just end up skidding the front tire. The same goes for acceleration. This time we have to let the weight transfer to the rear wheel, which will give us a lot of traction to accelerate fast. If we give the rear wheel too much power too fast, we are going to skid the rear tire. And the same principle applies to the other controls as well. As a rule of thumb, we want to be smooth on a bike. We don't want any abrupt inputs, which can upset our suspension and reduce the amount of traction on the tires. Being smooth on a bike can solve a lot of problems for us. Second thing, which we generally don't want to do on a bike, is to hang on to the handlebars. On paved roads, ideally we want to give our steering as much freedom as we can. Thanks to our bike's steering geometry, the front wheel constantly corrects itself as we go forward, which provides stability to our trajectory. The majority of the time, we want to let the front wheel do its job and interfere with it as little as possible. The key to that are our hands and arms. We want to keep them as loose and relaxed as possible. This way, we allow the front wheel to do its job. We don't restrict its motion. Plus, with relaxed arms and hands, we now can operate the throttle, brake and clutch much more precisely. If we grab on the handlebars instead, we are setting ourselves for a whole range of problems. The most obvious is fatigue, since when we grab onto the handlebars, all the vibration easily goes into our arms. And if we ride for any long period of time, it will definitely cause a lot of stress and fatigue to our arms. Next, if we cling onto the handlebars really tight, our bike becomes much worse at stabilizing itself. It clearly shows, for example, during the sudden wind gusts. A lot of people tend to tense up a lot, which prevents the front wheel from doing its job, correcting the bike. So it seems like the wind is blowing the bike off the road. If we just relax, it won't happen. Suddenly, even a light bike becomes very stable on the windy road. And of course, the tense, completely straight and locked arms on the handlebars are one of the primary causes for tank slappers. So, one of the best things which we can do on a bike is to just relax and let it do its job. 90% of the time, the bike pretty much drives itself. All we need to do is to point it in the right direction. Third thing will be about cornering. On public roads, we never want to accelerate out of a corner before we see the exit. There is a very common belief that we must start opening throttle when we enter the corner. The so-called slow look press and roll method, which is being taught a lot in beginner courses, also sort of implies that. There are a couple of problems with it. First, we actually don't strictly need to open the throttle as soon as we lean the bike. Here, for example, I am closing the throttle and braking when the bike is lean. And really, nothing bad happens. It's not like my bike suddenly explodes or something. Here, despite the pretty steep lean angle, I'm starting to open throttle only when I see the exit. The majority of the turn, my throttle is closed. Again, nothing bad happens. When we don't open the throttle in the corner right away, it doesn't necessarily mean anything bad would happen. Second thing is, when we are going through the corner, we should consider not only our lean angle, but our speed too. For the same lean angle, when we are going faster, we will have a bigger turning radius. If, let's say, we enter the turn and start accelerating right away, our turning radius becomes bigger and bigger, so now we have to increase the lean angle more and more to keep our bike at the same radius. If the bend radius suddenly decreases, we either run wide or try to lean even more, which can result in loss of traction and low side. With all that being said, there is literally no reason to accelerate through the turn before we can see an exit, especially in the turn which is unfamiliar. Fourth big mistake, which we never want to do, is to blindly reject protective gear. An awful lot of people don't use full protective gear, aside maybe helmet and gloves. And that would be totally okay with me if it would be a conscious decision. After all, people can do with their body anything they want. However, a lot of riders simply don't completely realize the benefits of a full protective gear. Yes, it may seem that even full gear won't do much for us if we hit the oncoming truck at 100 miles per hour. And that's probably true. But despite such accidents frequently pop up in the internet due to their dramatic appearance, if we actually look up the statistics, we'll find that the average speed right before the collision is usually around only 22 miles per hour. On such a speed, full protective gear is extremely effective. All those knee and elbow pads, back protectors and other stuff really makes a difference and saves a lot of pain in trouble. And also money if you think about it, since medical services usually don't come cheap. So, my sincere recommendation is to use full protective gear. ECE rated full face helmet, gloves, boots, knees, hips, elbows, shoulders and back protectors. They are extremely useful. Fifth thing, which we are as riders don't want to do, is to ride a bike with an unknown technical condition. It may seem like a common sense, but in reality, an awful lot of people skip the pre-ride check completely. And I get it, I too can sometimes feel a bit too lazy to make a proper pre-ride check. But that's a really important step. I even dedicated a whole chapter in my beginner rider course to how correctly perform a quick pre-ride check. But even if you don't feel like doing a proper check, at the very least check the tire pressure and your brakes condition each time you ride. Those are by far the most important parts of your bike. They must be in a good condition if you don't want to suddenly find yourself in the middle of emergency on the road, going at high speed and not being able to stop. Next thing to never do on a bike is drink and ride. I've got a guest speaker today just for this topic.
As your counselor, I'm here to tell you about drugs and alcohol and why they're bad, okay? So first of all, smoking's bad. You shouldn't smoke. And alcohol is bad. You shouldn't drink alcohol. And as for drugs, well, drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. Okay, that about wraps up my introduction. Now, are there any questions?
In all seriousness, though, alcohol impairment plays a role in about a third of lethal accidents with motorcycles. All this don't drink and ride stuff is not just some preaching, it's a statistically proven thing. So don't do it, it's very easy. I think that's enough for today. As usual, put the thumbs up, so I know you like these videos. And check out my video courses for beginners and advanced riders. Those courses are perfect instruments for unlocking your potential as a rider by performing some special exercises, which you can set up on pretty much any available parking lot. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye!